Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Wednesday, December 23rd, 2020. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, who's affectionately known as Coach. And today we get to preview tonight's 13-game NBA main slate.
Wow.
Coach, it is a monster game slate here, but it's the last one before Christmas. Are
Yeah,
you ready to blast it out here and pick out some winning combinations?
absolutely, man. I mean, I love it. The bigger the slate, the better for me. I think it gives us more of an edge, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So we have 13 games. We've been really preparing hard the last couple of days. We're not going to go into the in-depth discussion on each game as we do when it's a 3 or 4 game slate, but we've used all the main things that we talk about on here all the time to create, our recommendations and some of the game scripting here by looking at usage and pace and defensive real plus minus and on and on, So we will touch briefly as we go through them, but with 13 games, as you know, we need to keep it going or, we'll be here until the tip time.
That's right. Yeah, so in terms of the format, we are going to go game by game and just give a brief overview, talk about the injuries, the pace, who's in, who's out, and start to zero in on the matchups that we like.
Yeah.
And about halfway through the slate, we'll take a break and give you a tremendous offer from our presenting sponsor, betus.com.pa. And then at the end of this show, after we've gone through all the games, we're going to build a lineup on Fanduel that you can use in the main slate tonight. Two brains, hopefully better than one. So we'll go back and forth and build that during the show here. That's going to become a staple of our daily shows. So, Coach, let's get into it here. Game number
I'm ready,
one,
man. Let's get it.
Charlotte and Cleveland. 7 o'clock tip on the East Coast. One of the lower over-unders here, 215.
Yeah.
Charlotte's favored by 2.5. By the way, out of these 13 games today, there are 3 games over 230. So that's kind of a magic number
Yeah.
on BetUS today in terms of the highest total. So Charlotte and Cleveland, lower total. But you talked a lot in the preseason about attacking the Cleveland backcourt.
Right.
So before I ask you about that, the injury news is that Gordon Hayward is back in, even though he's got that right pinky fracture. And
Yeah.
on the Cleveland side, we've got Exum and Porter Jr. out, Dellavedova out, and Kevin Love out. So Larry Nance becomes more interesting. So let's start with this backcourt. Do we attack the Cleveland backcourt tonight?
It's interesting. You certainly can make a play here for Devonte Graham or Terry Rozier. I think a lot of people, because the over/under, are going to avoid this game, and everybody thinks LaMelo Ball is just going to take a ton of minutes away from either Graham or Rozier or the combination thereof. So I wouldn't overreact to that and just pass by it. I wouldn't load up just because of the slower pace in this game. But I think Graham is a good play at his price. And Rozier's had a terrific preseason. I think it woke him up that they have a third guard in that rotation and he needs to protect his position. So, going to one of them, I think, is not bad at all. But my favorite guy here, Andrew, believe it or not, is Gordon Hayward. And I'll tell you why. His usage rate, and we talked about this in the preseason a bit, I think it is just going to explode up the charts here. I think he's going to get most of the main shots. They're going to run the offense around him. Cleveland's defense, he's going to have a rookie on him probably. So, I really like Gordon Hayward here at low ownership because, everybody's concerned about that pinky. He said it's fine. He's not supposed to have any restrictions on play. And yeah, I like Gordon Hayward as my top play on the Charlotte side, believe it or not. And, again, you don't want to stack this game, though, just because of the pace. And with all these to choose from, you got to be very, very cautious about stacking.
Right. So, yeah, a one-off for me at the most. Hayward, I think, is interesting, and early in the season to continue to look at him and how the offense does run. I probably won't go there tonight because I like the prices for the guards on FanDuel a little bit better. So if I'm going to go to one of those guys, Graham is 5.7 and Rozier
Yeah.
is only 4.6. They're both cheaper on FanDuel today than they are on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So that's a real value price for these guys with the great matchup with the poor defensive backcourt on the other side. So I like Graham and Rozier as a potential one-off, one or the other.
Right.
And then on the other side, as I mentioned, with Nance coming into the starting lineup on FanDuel, he's only 5.1 and he's a small forward.
Yeah.
Uh, small forward, we talk a lot about on FanDuel. It's a tough position, but with 13 games, you finally have a few choices, right? I mean, that's what
You
it
do.
takes to get a couple of options is 13 games, but Nance is in there for me today as a potential value. All right, coach, game number 2, we've
Well,
got the,
let me touch on Cleveland. I don't mean to
oh,
interrupt you.
sure.
I just did the one side, not
Oh,
the
that's
other. I
right.
apologize. Um, there's two guys that stand out to me in this game, and it's Okoro, the rookie, because he's so darn cheap. He's dirt cheap. I think he's going to get 30 minutes plus. I think they have handed that position to him. I know they'll, Jetty Osmond will get a few minutes here and there, and Nance with Love being out, but I think Okoro, again, on a 13 game slate where you can be super picky, it's a little bit more difficult, but I think he, from a value standpoint, is a really strong play. And one of the top 3 centers on this entire slate that I'm considering is Andre Drummond. I think, I'm a big Drummond guy anyway, just because he just eats every rebound. Love's not going to grab any of those rebounds away from him because he's not going to be playing. And, if you watch Drummond in the preseason, he's lost a good amount of weight. He's even shooting threes, Andrew. I mean, and it looked good. So, I think Drummond's a fine play. He can certainly eat and break a slate. And again, I think this game is going to go be the most overlooked game because of the total. But I'm fine coming out of this with at least 2 guys because I think, the opportunity is going to be there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Drummond. I like him as well. I don't want to pay up for center on this slate, but he's one of the guys, along with Vucevic, in that 8K price range where I think it makes more sense.
I'm with you.
All right, game 2, New York and Indiana. Another low total here, 212.
Yeah.
Indiana, the 8-point home favorites. Miles Turner's back in. TJ Warren is back in.
Yeah.
He's been dealing with the foot issue, but he's going to be playing. And then on the New York side, Austin Rivers is out. Dennis Smith Jr. questionable or probable,
Right.
and Mitchell Robinson is questionable with an ankle. So lower total here. Any interest?
We talked about it quite a bit in the preview show. Tibbs plays his main guys an absolute boatload of minutes, and that makes it very tempting to want to dial up a Julius Randle here. But Indiana plays solid D. You've got Sabonis and Turner in the paint, and it creates a tough spot. But Julius Randle for me on the New York Knicks side is potentially playable. I'm still not comfortable with the Noel and Robinson split, and Barrett is tempting, but it just on a 13 game slate, I don't think it's necessary. So really, Randall's the only standout guy for me on that side of the ball. As far as Indiana goes, I'm a big Sabonis guy. I think he is absolutely one of the best, most underrated players in the league. Although he made the All-Star team last year, I guess he's not that underrated. But he's always in consideration for me. And I think he'll eat against the Knicks in the paint. So, he's a guy out of this game that I probably come out of there with. Other than that, though, the Pacers, just the depth that they have with Brogdon and Oladipo and the Holiday brothers, McConnell gets in there, Edmund Summers in their rotation. And then, to me, it just makes it hard to roster those guys in a game that's not going to have a ton of pace. So, I can see playing a guy or two. And again, a lot of these games, when they're this low total, we say pass and let's move forward. But both of these first games to me have some substance to them. And a lot of the ones, the part with the Knicks is just the way Tibbs coaches and the amount of minutes he plays his guys. But I will say Sabonis looked fantastic in the preseason, and I think he's going to be the focal point of that offense, especially until Oladipo figures out how to play basketball again. He's just not there.
Right. Yeah, Sabonis is a nice price for his talent. Brogdon, I like. He's the only other guy over there. Low to mid 6K range, a guy who can get you 40 fantasy points. And in general, I do like a balanced approach on this slate because you've got 13 games, because it's the first game of the regular season.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier for a guy who's 6K to pay off value than a guy who's 10K or more. So that's my approach in general. So Brogdon you could go to. On the Knicks side, Randall is the number one option for me. He's at that price on this slate. It's right on the borderline because he doesn't usually have the huge ceiling games. So although we talked about him a ton in the preseason, I'm a little bit hesitant on him today. Obi Toppin's price jumped out on DraftKings, 3.7. I think is too cheap for him. So you can put him in your collection of value plays. And then the news could impact Nerlens Noel for me because he's under 4K on both sites. Right. If he starts, if Robinson's out and he might actually get 30 minutes, you could go there. But if they're both going to play, if Robinson's starting, then obviously Noel is not going to make my lineup.
Yeah, I mean, whichever way that folds out, it just looks like a split position for me.
Game 3, we have Miami traveling to Orlando. Another low total here, 217. Right. Miami favored by 4.5. And no big injury news here, but it's a combination of teams that just don't light up the scoreboard, especially when they're playing each other.
Right.
Anyone jump out at you here?
Well, other than, it's funny because you see a lot better players really in this game than the first two. But I like this one the least of the three. We have 3 slow-paced games, and it's funny because I remember that last year as well. It seems like these East teams that play earlier are the lower score, better defensive teams,
right?
And we end up backloading these later games, but it's just the way that it pans out because of the West Coast teams. A lot of them seem to play faster pace. There's a lot of great players in this game. Like I said, Bam and Butler and, Vuk and all the guys, even Aaron Gordon, you could talk about her, Fultz. I'm not going to go there. I think I respect the defense on both sides. I respect the fact that they both want to control the pace. And, if it wasn't a 13-game slate, I'd dig in a little bit more. But, when I was looking at different combinations, the prices on these guys for these two teams are a little too high for me to fit them in there with a limited ceiling.
Yeah, Miami is a full pass for me for the reasons you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Orlando, Fultz is somebody you can consider. I like that he's got the new contract. He's in the 5K range. Vucevic is, again, the one center along with Drummond that I would look at in the 8K range. He's been playing heavy minutes in the preseason, getting up a ton of shots. He's another guy that they want to shoot threes, and he has much more experience, obviously, than Drummond and skill shooting the threes. So he can pile up the points, and I think he could pay off his price tag. Game 4, we've got the Wizards traveling to Philly to take on the 76ers. James Harden is not there yet, so it's the other guy he played with last year, Westbrook, coming in on the road to play on that floor. In terms of the news, I saw that Westbrook does not have a minutes limit.
Right.
He only played 17 minutes in the last preseason game, and he's over 9K on both sites. So we'll see about that. But no big injury news with the Sixers either. So this is another game with a lot of good players like the last one. Should be higher scoring. The total's 229. And the 76ers are 7.5-point favorites here.
It's interesting. I mean, how much do you weigh last year's stats? Everybody knows Washington was historically bad defensively, gave up an incredible amount of points per game, and you really couldn't win a slate unless you had a couple of guys going against Washington every night. It became, that had to be the piece of it. It's a little bit tougher here, though. I mean, I don't know how much Westbrook usage-wise is truly going to take away from Beal. And that's the key factor. And, we didn't get to see enough of them on the court together in the preseason to really determine what that is. But, we know Westbrook, we know he's ball dominant, and without question, he's going to take some things away from Beal. And the pricing is still high on both of those guys. So, I just don't feel like on this slate I want to pay up for either one of them on Washington's side. I respect Philly's defense enough. I mean, if you want a GPP kind of play, though, the rookie Avdia has looked terrific in preseason. And, he's being mentioned along with Killian Hayes as the two surprise guys that have a good shot at Rookie of the Year. So that's a guy you can consider. He's big, man. He's like 6'10", but he can play almost like a 2-3 guard. It's unbelievable. But he's going to be a nice player. It's hard, coming in right off the schneid here as a rookie and blowing it up, especially against a decent Philly team. But he would be the bargain play and value play on Washington's side, specifically in a GPP. And then, let's talk about Philly here. I guess that's where the chips lay. Is Washington's defense going to improve at all because of Westbrook? I mean, Westbrook did make a determination last year that he was going to turn up his on-the-ball defense on the perimeter. And the stats showed out throughout the year. His defensive real plus-minus, which used to be very poor, actually moved into the top half of the league. So he stepped up defensively. Is that going to have an impact on a team that is not good defensively at all? That's a tough call. I think Simmons and Embiid both have to be considered. Embiid is so expensive, and Simmons is up there too. So, one or the other, not both, but I could easily see putting one of the Philly studs in there just based on, the crazy over-under numbers that Washington allowed last year.
That's true. I think they'll probably be a little bit better defensively, but not markedly so. But I don't want to pay for Embiid or Simmons on the first game. Tobias Harris, I think, is a fair price, low 6K range. And with the Wizards, I don't really want to pay for Westbrook or Beal either. Beal would be closer to a lineup for me, getting 27 minutes in the last preseason game, and he's only 8,100 on Fanduel, so it's a good price for Beal.
Yeah.
But I do like Avdia as a value play, probably the best out of this game.
Very good. We're
Coach,
just roaring through this, man.
This is amazing. We're on a
not
great
messing
pace
around.
here. Game 5. These guys aren't going to mess around either. Bucks and Celtics.
Yikes.
This is the first game to me that could be high scoring, could be close, could be one you'd want to get a couple guys from, depending on pricing and your build. Over under on BetUS is 224. Milwaukee, the 4-point favorites. This game is in Boston, 7:30 tip off.
Yeah.
And we've got on the bigs for the Celtics, Taco Fall is out. Tristan Thompson's back in. And then on the Milwaukee side, DJ Augustine is doubtful. So
Okay.
A lot of studs in this game. Will you be investing in any of them?
Well, I think the big question tonight, and I'd like to get your feedback on this one, the two top guys, in my opinion, to pay way up for, if you do. Now, again, I'm leaning more towards a balanced lineup, but I'm not sure yet. But they're Giannis or Luka. I think those are the two guys that, they're in a high price zone. But it's like, if you're going to pay up for one of them, I think it's a great move. Certainly can't pay up for both. So that's the question for me is, do I want to invest that in Giannis? And we know that he broke the record for most DFS points per minutes played last season. And he just can get it done in absolute clusters. And you've got Boston with Tice, same as before, with Tristan Thompson trying to get some minutes in there also. But I don't see anybody slamming the brakes on Giannis. I would not blame anybody for rostering him in a heartbeat. Rest of the guys, I always think Milwaukee's just slightly overpriced. for Middleton, Holiday. I mean, DiVincenzo will get some ownership, but then you've got a lot of guys chipping in with Brook and Bobby Portis, and they play a deep bench, with Connaughton and Forbes and Drew Holiday and everybody else that's going to get minutes and take consideration. So really on the Milwaukee side, Andrew, it's Giannis or bust for me if I'm going to go there instead of Luka. And other than that, I know that the total's high, and I think this game will be closely contested. But man, it's hard to pay that far up for guys on this kind of a slate with this many good players. And then on the inverse side with Boston, I'm a huge Tatum guy. I think he's going to be a superstar this year. I like the way everything's lining up for him with Kemba out and just a multitude of things on usage. When I look back through a lot of things last year now with Hayward gone and all of those things, the bottom line is one of the top 3 guys I have listed for somebody I'm going to pay a ton of attention to early on, especially, is Jason Tatum. I think he's going to get 60-point fantasy nights decent amount of times this year. But he's so high priced is the question. Can you afford that? And if you try to play a Luka Tatum or a Giannis Tatum, man, you're strapped. You're talking about having like 3 value guys after that. So for me, I would love to take Tatum. I just don't know if I can afford his tag. I think it's a little high for this game. And then after that, Marcus Smart's going to get some ownership with Kemba out. But he's hit or miss. I mean, he's a boomer bust kind of guy generally. I would wait and see on Jaylen Brown a little bit right now still. He's going to be the second banana there for sure, especially with Kemba out, but his price is pretty high. So that's, unfortunately, it's not like rocket science here, but Giannis and Tatum are by far the 2 best plays from this game. But the question is, can you fit them in? If you're making a few multiple lineups, maybe use one in each of them. But, after that, I'm not as crazy about the ancillary guys because I think both teams play a lot of players.
Yeah, I don't want to play Tatum at this price. I agree with you that pretty soon here he could have some 60-point fantasy nights, but I don't want to pay close to $10,000 for him on this slate. Filling out the Celtics side, Jaylen Brown, I think you can consider. He's right on that price range where you don't feel great about it, but if you build a balanced lineup right around 7K, you can play him and feel pretty good about it. And same thing with Middleton on the other side. Obviously, I'd rather see him in the 6K range than 7, but
just a little high.
I'd rather play him than Giannis. And Drew Holiday, I'm going to wait on him. Let's see how he fits into this offense when Giannis and Middleton are both out there.
And he's then a hard pass for me, man. Yeah. I did not like the way he looked in preseason. He was just didn't look like he fit.
Yeah, not aggressive enough, not shooting enough to play at this price.
No.
And then with Giannis, he's not going to make my first lineup. Giannis and Luka will both not make my first lineup. So this would be a situation where if you're making 3 lineups, maybe, then I start to think about one of them in the second or third lineup.
Okay.
But I'd rather get somebody like Middleton or Jaylen Brown and hope that they give me 40 fantasy points, give me around 6x instead of going to Giannis and hoping for 75 and 80.
Which he could do.
He certainly could, no doubt about it. All right, we've got the Pelicans and the Raptors here, and best total so far 228.5. Raptors favored by 4. It's going to be a fun matchup here. Another collection of stars, and we've seen the Pelicans play heavier minutes with their guys in the preseason, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Only real injury news we've got. Norman Powell is questionable.
That's big news.
That is big news.
Yeah.
How does that affect things for you?
Well, on the Toronto side, and first of all, I want to mention too, if anybody doesn't know this information already, but because of coronavirus, Toronto is playing all of its home games in Tampa, Florida. So just interesting to note, even though there's no fans and stuff for most of these games, not being in your own bed or in your own place that is a little bit of a twist that is a downgrade for Toronto throughout the season, I think. But Powell plays an important role. I mean, they are so locked in with Lowry and Van Vliet just being absolutely awesome, and then Powell playing that third role, and they rotate, move Van Vliet over, and then Van Vliet goes out and Lowry comes in. So if he doesn't play, I think it adds to some of the Toronto minutes a little bit. And I could consider either one of them, Lowry or Van Vliet. I like Lowry a little better. He's in good shape. They're looking fresh. The Pelicans aren't the best defensive team. The over-under's high. So I have no problem there. Not crazy about the Toronto bigs, especially against some of this interior of the Pelicans. I'm with you, though. I mean, we went from Gentry and the Pelicans last year and trying to get, 14 people minutes. And, they got rid of a lot of the spare parts. They've narrowed down their rotation. And, Van Gundy is basically saying, okay, we've got, 20-year-old guys. Let's let, Ball, Ingram, Zion, specifically those three, just get a boatload of minutes and see where they can take us. And, that puts all of them in play a lot. I think Zion's probably the best play from this game because his price is reasonable. You're going to get high ownership on him, but it might be worth eating that chalk. Ingram's tough as hell. I think he could be played. His price isn't quite as conducive, but I do really like Zion tonight. And I think, I'll be rostering a lot of Pelicans. I don't think it's a bunch of pomp and circumstance people who are on the Pelicans, because I think you deserve to be, because they're going to play up tempo and they're going to play their guys more minutes than they have in the past. And I think that puts them square in play. And the last guy I'll mention, he's overpriced for me, but a guy that I want to, keep in the back of everybody's mind here, because he's sort of on the same realm for me as Paul George was in the bubble, which was a disaster. I really feel George is going to come out this year with a chip on his shoulder, and he showed it yesterday right out of the gates. And I think a similar situation with Pascal Siakam, just absolutely fell apart in the bubble. And I think, he is the guy that's going to take the most shots on this team. He is the guy they go to when they need a bucket. And he's one of those Julius Randle style guys. He will push his own player out of the way to get a rebound or a shot up. So Siakam's always on my radar. I just wish his price was down a little lower. Yeah.
On the Toronto side, for me, Lowry would be the first guy I would look at. I like how he played much better in that finale of the preseason, got 25 points and hit 6 of 10 3-pointers.
Yeah.
So I like that recent form coming in. On the Pelicans side, it's also Zion and Ingram for me. I will have Zion in some lineups tonight. And then Ingram, he's 8,600 on DraftKings, but he's only 7,300 on Fanduel. I think that's too cheap for him over there.
I agree.
So he'll make some lineups for me.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to the game that I like the most on this slate, Coach, we first have to share this tremendous offer to our listeners. If you're into sports betting along with DFS, check this out.
Listen up, sports bettors. It's go time, so put down the beer and make every sporting event more exciting by putting stakes on the line. Earn bragging rights over friends as you rake in the cash from each week's betting action, but don't settle for any other book. Choose America's favorite sportsbook with over 25 trusted years in the industry. You need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity, and most importantly, a sportsbook that pays. BetUS has your game with action on football, baseball, and basketball, MMA, golf, horses, and even esports. No other sportsbook welcomes newcomers like BetUS with their jaw-dropping sign-up bonuses. Now we have the best book in the industry teamed up with the best DFS provider in the industry. Make your first deposit of $149 at BetUS.com.pa with promo code CoachTalk and receive a free membership with DFS Coach Talk with full access to our DFS lineups in NBA, NFL, PGA, and MLB, the best in the biz. Sign up today to make straight bets, future bets, prop bets, entertainment bets, live bets, and more. No other sportsbook in the industry is committed to their users like BetUS. So sign up now and get on the winning side of the ball.
Welcome back, and thank you to BetUS for that tremendous offer. If you're watching on YouTube, just look down at the bottom of the screen, and you've got all the details there of how you can take advantage of it. Again, use the promo code CoachTalk, and the amazing thing is you get to use that $149 at BetUS, and you get the free membership with us that goes all the way until April 1st. You get our lineups for every slate in NBA, 7 days a week, every slate in NFL, all the way through the Super Bowl, PGA once that starts up in January, MLB when that starts. It's an all-access package, best deal around. Take advantage of it now. Jump in with us and crush it with us all NBA season.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention too, real quickly, if you don't want to do the sports betting and just do the DFS side, or we have members from Canada and Australia where you can't use BetUS as your sports book. So we are offering the exact same price, the $149 through April 1st. So just go to dfscoachtalk.com to sign up for that, and that's an easy way to do it. Also, wanted to mention a couple other things real quickly. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, it's extremely important that you click that thumbs up, you click the subscribe button. That's very important. And hit the little alert, that little clock there, so it'll let you know when our podcast posts, because it's going to vary from time to time, the size of the slate, the whole 9 yards. So you're going to want that information coming in. And then the last thing, so I don't forget later, Andrew, I wanted to mention the 2 national TV games tonight. And the reason I always mention this is it's proven the national TV games get a little bit higher ownership than they normally do because people want to watch their players for people that don't have league pass. So that is a little deterrent for the Milwaukee Bucks Celtics game, and then the Suns and the Mavs, because those will be the games that are, all over the place tonight. So that is it, man. Back to you.
Okay. Well, let's get into this Atlanta and Chicago game. Because
this is the one you're waiting for.
Oh, yeah, this is what I'm waiting for here. We've got a total of 232. Atlanta favored by 2. It's in Chicago. So
okay.
This is
run with it. Do your breakout. All right. I know that you're hot on this one.
I'm hot on this one, and Coach did a great job in our last preseason show talking about Atlanta and how you don't necessarily want to stack this team as much as you did last year because of their depth. They got a lot of talented guys. You guys got guys like Rondo and Gallinari coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Herter and Reddish and Bogdanovich, Hunter. So there's a lot more talent. There's more depth. But I think we need to push the pause button on that approach for this first game because Clint Capella is doubtful.
Right.
So if he's out, then we may get Collins at the 5. We might get Gallinari in the starting lineup. All of a sudden, there's more minutes, more usage to go around. So Collins is much more in play for me. And we also have Rondo is out. Dunn is out. So that guard depth isn't there. I think you could get a few more minutes from Trae Young, a few more shots. So I like Trae Young and Collins here. And depending on what happens with the other wing players, you could have value as well because Herter is probable and Cam Reddish is probable. But if one of those guys is out, the other one's under 4,000 on Fanduel. You could go there. Hunter's under 4,000 on Fanduel. I probably won't go to those guys, but I wanted to mention it just in case news pops. The other guy here is Bogdanovich at right around 5K on both sites. Yeah. And I think he could do pretty well in this game. He's already taking a lot of shots, even if he comes off the bench. So I like guys here on the Atlanta side. And then on the Chicago side, we talked about that as well in the preseason. Right. Kobe White and Zach LaVine are just putting up a ton of shots, playing off of each other. It's a great correlation play. They're fair prices. So I like the guards on both sides here. And I'm going to, my primary lineup here, I'm probably going to have multiple guys from this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I really don't. I'm still from the school of thought with Atlanta's shooters that I just see so much depth. I mean, Rondo's not really a shooter at all, and Dunn isn't either. But the guys that are going to get the shots up, and I'm pretty confident that Herter and Reddish play. I'd say like 90%. So you're talking about a lot of shots from Young, Bogdanovich, Herter, Reddish, Hunter, and Gallinari. So there's a lot more sharpshooters on that team, and that still gives me pause at the pricing that they're at. The first guy in my lineup today was John Collins. Plug and play. To me, you got to play him. Clint Capella's not going to play. Okongwu, the rookie that they drafted, is out. So it's John Collins and then Bruno Fernando backing him up or bust. So it's going to be the Collins show. If they're going to win this game, he's going to need 15 to 18 rebound kind of game and get the rest of it done as well. The only concern with Collins, he does have a tendency to get into some foul trouble, so we got to just be a little wary there. Chicago doesn't have the best interior game, so I think he should be okay. So Collins plug and play. I'm sticking with my theory for right now on just spreading the wealth with Atlanta. That gives me some concern. The other side, though, I'm with you on the two-man stack of Kobe and Zach. I have no problem playing those guys together in this game. I think there's plenty for them to eat. Wendell Carter's been disappointed, backed up by Gafford. Markkanen can do spotty things. Believe it or not, the rookie Patrick Williams, who couldn't even start at Florida State 10 months ago or whatever it was, is starting for the Bulls. So he's not going to get a million shots up. Otto Porter will get in there and take a few, but the majority of their scoring is going to come from Kobe White and Zach LaVine. And, the only time to really avoid those guys is when you're going against fantastic perimeter defense. So, I have no problem firing up both of those guys. Certainly going to play one or the other, with a little correlation from the other side. So I'm with you. I think this game, 2 or 3 guys from this game, even though it's a 13-game slate and, you have 8 or 9 guys on your roster, this is a nice target game, in my opinion.
Absolutely. All right. The next one is interesting because it has some news. Oklahoma City and Houston. And Houston, the 8-point home favorites, over under 224.5. But right now, we're recording this in the middle of the day. We're not sure about Harden. Obviously, he's popped up as a questionable tag because of his outings to the strip clubs. We're not sure about the timing of that, COVID protocols. So that status is up in the air. Big question mark. He's over 10K, but let's say he's out, Coach. John Wall, right around 7K on both sites. What do you think about him?
It puts him in play. If Harden is ruled out, you definitely have to consider him. The problem with Oklahoma City, though, in any games with them, and I just don't trust them. Oklahoma City is the worst team in the league. They're going to get blown out night after night. I think it's going to affect the rotation. They're not going to play super fast. They want to lower the amount of the game because they're just so outmanned. After Shea on that side, it's a crapshoot. Please don't roster Dort or Baisley or even Horford or Diallo. These guys, they're bad. And, they'll occasionally have a competitive game, but I think they're going to get their doors blown in. And I just don't want any part of OKC games. If we're forced to on a small slate, we can dig back in. But, if Harden's out, to me, I consider Wall. After that, this game, just because of Oklahoma City, isn't appealing to me.
Yeah, I like Wall here. Potentially, I agree with you. It is a risk with a potential blowout. The bigs are interesting for me for Houston because Wood was so dominant in that last preseason game in 24 minutes, 27 points, 10 rebounds. And Cousins is too cheap, especially on Fanduel. He's only 4.5K.
He is. Yeah.
So I do like that price. Deep sleeper value play. Keep an eye on Pokashevsky on the OKC side. Minimum price on both sites. Double off the bench in the last preseason game in 25 minutes. I don't think Horford's going to be pushing over 30 minutes here to start. So guy to keep an eye on here early in the season.
You take Pokashevsky, I'm going to poke you right in the eye. Poke Andrew if I see Pokashevsky. I don't think he's that good, I swear. But I get it. Somebody's got to do something there. They're not going to score 50 points a game. So I'm with you, man. Yeah. I want to ask you this, though. What if Harden is ruled in? What does that shift for you in that game? Because he may be.
Well, he's over 10K. so he's cheaper than Giannis and Luka. He could be fired up to make a statement on opening day, but I probably won't go there because he's rounding into form as we've seen in the preseason.
Yeah, you
And I
mean
don't
rounding into form.
exactly. And
Yes.
I'm not really thinking he'd put up 60 fantasy points, so I'd rather avoid it.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially
I'm
in a
with.
potential blowout.
Well, and on top of that, man, it's such a dumpster fire there. I mean, the players don't want him there. I mean, because he's basically said, "Screw you guys, I don't want to be here. You suck." So it's just a complete mess, and it's just no reason to go there. And let's face it, man. I can say this because I consider myself overweight, so it's not mean to call somebody else, but he's chubby, just like I call him Fat Pascal now. Sorry, I hate to be mean, but he looked so chubby last night too. I'm done with the chubby guys, dude. I mean, you can be chubby when you're my age and you're retired, but I'm not chasing. I don't want to see these dudes that need to drop 25 pounds just to get out there. So I have no interest there if Harden plays or not. The only effect it has for me is Wall's in play if he sits.
Okay. All right. The next matchup, we've got the Spurs and Memphis. Another 8:00 tip. This is one of the games over 230. It's 231.5 over under.
You'd ever believe that we'd have a Spurs Grizz game be
Yeah.
one of the highest scoring games on the
I know.
slate? All those years of defensive shutdown, grind town stuff for these two teams, and now they just get up and down.
Yeah, and we saw last year Memphis picked up the pace. The Spurs didn't play defense.
Right.
And here we are. Now, in terms of the news, we've got Derek White continuing to be out with San Antonio. Looks like Keldon Johnson's going to be back in.
Yeah.
And on the Memphis side, Justice Winslow is still out. What are your thoughts on this one?
It's hard because with this total and the amount of possessions, the pace, everything else, the defensive inefficiencies of some parts of both of these teams, I mean, you really need to look at it. On the San Antonio side, though, Pop's going to play a boatload of guys. I mean, Murray's a sound play. Lonnie Walker's a high consideration, but Patty Mills is going to get a ton of minutes. Keldon Johnson looked phenomenal in the bubble. He's looking like he's going to play. This Vassell guy that you're high on, the rookie, deserves to be high on. He looks sharp. Rudy Gay still getting his rotation. DeRozan and Aldridge are going to be your main two go-to guys, but then they're going to use Lyles and Pirtle, and it just goes on and on. So I really don't have much confidence on this side of the ball. I think you're going to consistently for a while see any usage coming out of the Spurs basically being Murray, DeRozan, and Aldridge, but there's a lot of other guys that can steal minutes there. So, I'm just not, I'm having trouble pulling the trigger on the San Antonio side. Now, on the Memphis side, we know that Triple J's out for a while. And, with him being out, that always, you got to talk a little bit about Joe Val and Brandon Clark because they're going to be your main two guys, but they're not layups. I mean, Slow-Mo gets time at the 4 every game. Gorgie Jang is getting nice backup minutes. So they're not layups, especially on a 13-game slate. Dylan Brooks, everybody always uses him as a value guy or plugs him in because he does take, he thinks he's the best shooter in the league. He's firing everything up all over the place. And, he's okay. And, if you need value, he could be a desperate spot. You could put him in there or in a GPP. And then, of course, Jaws in play. I mean, in this kind of a paced game, you got to consider him. DeJounte Murray can defend, though, and that's a little bit scary. But, Morant's going to get the majority of time. There were some of these preseason games where that dude, he just explodes to the basket. We're just starting to see, I think, what he can become. So I wouldn't fault you for playing Ja, but that's not the first place I'm going to go from the point side. So I'm going to try to scratch a guy out of this game just because I don't feel I want to pass it. But even though the number's so high and I like the pace, I just don't see a lot of, it hits you right in the forehead kind of plays.
I don't either. Joe Val is a decent price. Dylan Brooks, I think, might be the guy I would pick on that side because he's right around 5K, but I don't
That's
know if I'll
cheap.
get there.
Yeah, he gets usage too for that.
Right.
There's not too many 5,000 guys that get that kind of usage.
Yep. On the San Antonio side, I like Devin Vassell a lot at minimum price. I'm a little concerned with Keldon Johnson coming back in the mix, but you could go there in a GPP with Vassell. All right, Coach, the next game, Detroit, Minnesota. This is a pass for me. I don't have notes on any of the players. I think Cat is too expensive. Detroit is an absolute mess. The guards for Minnesota don't seem to be in really much of a rhythm yet with Rubio and Russell. But do you look at it differently? Is anybody you like in this game?
I still, I'll stop making fun of him because I know it's Shane's favorite team. But man, the Pistons moves are the most bizarre moves I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you bring a new GM in and you got a veteran coach, and then your two main signings you're going to build around are Mason Plumlee and Jeremy Grant, and then you bring in DeLon Wright to start at the 2. A fading Blake Griffin still at the 4. And D Rose off the bench. The only guy I would consider playing from the Detroit side is Killian Hayes because of his price. And I'll tell you what, this kid has confidence, ridiculous confidence. Like in the preseason games I watched, and I was very interested to see what he did because he played overseas last year. He was ball dominant. He took big shots. He ran the floor. I mean, he is a nice ball player. I think his shooting percentage and stuff won't be as great, but he's going to get shots up. And I think he's a terrific value play on this card and somebody that would be the only guy that I'd consider on the Detroit side at all. Minnesota, a lot of people pay up for Cat in this matchup. I sort of respect Plumlee's defense a little bit. He'll probably get in foul trouble. But, I just did not like the body language and how the team looked in preseason. They seem a little disheveled. Beasley's had a lot of off-court problems. D'Angelo Russell can be great or terrible. You just don't know. But now he has to split with Rubio, which made no sense getting him back. Okogie just signed a massive deal, and he's hit or miss. He can also crush a lineup. You just don't know. And, Jake Layman, Hernan Gomez, these two teams are going to have a long year. I just don't want to pay up for Cat in this matchup. Don't like anybody else on that side of the ball. This game is not going to be on my quick reply clicker for the NBA League Pass tonight.
Me either. The next one here is Sacramento-Denver. We got 3 games left before we build our lineup for FanDuel.
Good Lord.
This one
feels like we've talked about every team twice.
I know. This one is middle of the road in terms of over-under. It's 225.5. Denver, 8-point home favorites. We've got JaMychal Green out for Denver. We've got Jabari Parker out for Sacramento. Any standouts here for you?
Oh, De'Aaron Fox is always in play just because he's such a leader of that team. I think you can consider him, but his price, he's overpriced. I don't like the Healed Halliburton sort of splitting time. Please don't put Harrison Barnes on your lineup. It looks like Holmes and Whiteside and Bielitsa and Bagley, it's just a monster split for the bigs right now for minutes, which really deters you for wanting to take anybody. Believe it or not, if you look at Whiteside's price, though, he in short amount of minutes with his blocks and rebounds, he can easily pay that off. So I can understand a Whiteside play, maybe a Bagley play, but I don't trust him. Not on a 13-game slate, with this many good players out there. On the Denver side, it's interesting. The Joker is such an odd guy. I mean, sometimes he starts seasons very slow and just wants to pass the ball to everybody. He's done that 2 of the last 3 years. His first 5 or 6 games of the year, his scoring rate was way down in shot attempts. His assists were up, but who knows with that guy if he's going to be, in that mindset, wanting to get people involved initially. His price is too high for me on this big of a slate. I don't mind Jamal Murray. I think his price is fair. He's certainly a guy, as we've seen, that can smash a slate. But you've got a lot of depth in Denver this year. So it's another one of those teams of concern of depth. We talked a little bit about it in preseason, like Atlanta. They're going to play Monte Morris. They want to try to bring Campazzo in a little bit to get a few minutes here and there. PJ Dozier's an up-and-coming terrific star. They've added Will Barton back from last year, no restrictions. And, of course, my favorite player in the league, Michael Porter Jr. I mean, best attitude, best game. Just inside joke for our members from last year. And then I read today that Paul Millsap's in the best shape he's been in the last 4 or 5 years. He's lost weight. He's going to contribute. So the depth there is terrifying to me, and sort of eliminates most of these guys in this matchup. Although Sacramento plays fast and it's tempting, you may end up seeing Jamal Murray make my final lineup, Andrew.
Okay. For me, Porter Jr. on Fanduel is a guy that you need to look at only 5,400. I think that's too cheap for him. So he's my favorite play in this game. I think Holmes is interesting as a GPP play under 5,000. You could look at him, but I'm not thrilled about the split minutes with that front court. So Porter Jr. for me here, and we move on to the next one.
Wow. Okay. Well, at least we're not giving a million guys out, so we're narrowing the field down for everybody.
Yep. Utah and Portland, another game with a 225.5 total. Portland, the 1-point favorite at home, 10 o'clock tip-off. We've got Zach Collins out, Nasir Little out, Anthony Simons is questionable. And on the Utah side, we've got Favors is probable.
Go ahead. You race with it. Let me feed off you this time, because I'm terrible in Utah games.
Well, I'd love to race with it, but this is a game that's a little slower pace because of Utah. Right. They slow everything down, bog it down. So
you mean Bogdanovich it down?
You could. At 4,600 on FanDuel, you could Bogdanovich it down and have a nice value play there.
He's cheap, man. And
he's really
cheap. You look at his usage before he got hurt. Dangerous.
Yeah. So that one makes sense to me. Mitchell right on the border, probably a little too expensive for me on the first slate at 8K. Jordan Clarkson would be the other value play I would look at on the Utah side. Low 4Ks. That's perfect for a guy who comes off the bench, gives you 20 minutes, jacks it up a bunch. So I like that potential play. And then on Portland, probably not going to go with Lillard. I'm excited to play him here early in the season, but at 9,000, I don't want to go there against Utah. Derek Jones Jr., who we talked about on our preseason shows, if he starts at only 3,500 on FanDuel, I think it's a great value play.
I think he's going to start.
Solid price on DraftKings as well at 4,200. So for me, it's a value play, and that's it.
Interesting. Yeah, this is a good game. I think Dame time is in play here. Conley is not the defender he used to be, and Clarkson is not a good defender. So there's going to be scenarios where Dame's in there in the rotation and should just go bonkers. So he's expensive though. That's the killer. You got to make those decisions how you're going to fit it. But I think Dame's the best play. I get it that Jones is a good play because of his price and the additional minutes and time that he'll get out there. But, they still have guys like Trent and Hood and different folks that are going to rotate in there. So be careful. I don't know, on a 13-game slate, Jones might be a better GPP play. What do you think about Covington? We haven't talked about him at all. And he was such a stud last year. What do you think he's in play?
Yeah, I like 5,800 for him on FanDuel. He is in play.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. I know he's going to split time with Carmelo and all that, but man, he just takes advantage of the whole deal out there. He gets a lot of stocks for a guy, steals blocks, and then obviously he's a three-point shooter. And just from the defensive rotation, I think, the impact that Portland wanted to make this year by bringing Jones and Covington in is they wanted to finally be able to stop somebody because they had no defense last year. And so I think he's going to get minutes, and no one's really saying anything about him. So he could be a real sneaky little value play. And he doesn't super disappoint. He may squeak by 5X, but he's a guy that you can consider. I like Nurkic. I think his price is a little bit heavy though. And but I do like him. He takes advantage of the time out on the floor. But you got Rudy Gobert, so the Stifle Tower has a tendency to scare you a little bit. So I'm not crazy about this game. If I do steer from Luka, Dame might be the point guard I go to save some money, not a ton, but enough. And I do think Dame will have a big game. CJ's always, for some reason I never consider CJ that much. And he does put up some huge games. I mean, from what I saw in preseason, they're going to continue that rotation where Dame sits after like 6 minutes. CJ takes over the point for like the rest of the first quarter and the first 4 minutes of the second. So he gets to have monster usage bump then. And then he finally sits and Dame comes back in. So that rotation makes guys playable. But like I mentioned on the front side, I have a hard time predicting Utah games because as soon as I decide I'm going to play somebody, a couple guys from their game, they have one of those grinded games, where Gobert's shutting everything down in the paint and they're using the possession, but then when I don't, then they get up and down, and Portland is a fast-paced team. So this is a hard one for me, man, for sure.
Okay. Well, the last one I know you'll have some thoughts on, and you referenced Luka. He is in the final tip-off at 10:30. We've got Dallas against Phoenix.
Yeah.
This is another game over 2:30 at 2:34. Phoenix favored by 1. Injury news, we've got Kleba probable. On the Phoenix side, we've got Saric, Kaminsky, and Abdel Nader out. Chris Paul is probable. So I know you're big into both of these teams. So what are you thinking on this one?
Well, let me first start off by saying I wish this wasn't the national TV game because, like I said, I think it's going to get a little false chalk here because everybody's going to be wanting to load up on it. It's the late game, the high total, Luka, Booker, the whole 9 yards. So, but it's also I don't think you can fade it. I think you got to have a little correlation, even if it's a one guy from each team. So, as long as Porzingis is out, you almost have to consider Luka on the front side of every contest. And $10,000 for Luka is somewhat of a value. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you remember at the end of last year, he was 12-2, 12-4, and his usage is like 42%. I mean, he's up there in the, real high level, Harden kind of numbers as far as usage. So Luka's still my play. I don't want anybody else from the Dallas side because I'm telling you right now, Carlisle plays a quintillion guys. And I'm going to just give you this real quick. I know we're running a little long here, but Jalen Brunson's going to play and Tim Hardaway's going to get his shots up. You're going to have Trey Burke getting a decent amount of minutes. Josh Green, the rookie, is in their rotation. Dorian Finney-Smith, a lot of minutes. He's going to see the floor a lot. James Johnson's in their rotation as a big off the bench. Maxi Kleba is going to get a big chunk. He's their best interior defender. And then you have Dwight Powell, who's starting. And, there's a possibility you may get a Cauley Stein or Boban sighting. Not much, but a little. I say all those guys because if you really want to try to figure out on a 12-man rotation who's going to step up, I think there's going to be a lot of false people going to Josh Richardson. So that's my fade today. I love Josh. Great ad for Dallas. I think he's perfect fit, especially when Kristaps is back. But he had shot like something almost ridiculous, like 68% from the field in the preseason. Obviously not something that, he can continue to do. And I think a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon. I think he'll be overowned because it's a national TV game. So I'm Luka or bust, passing on everybody else there, and I'm leaning that direction. Now, on the other side of the ball with Phoenix, again, you're going to have fast pace, but let me tell you this, Josh Richardson changes the perimeter defense from the Mavericks. Mavericks had horrible defense on the perimeter last year. We were expecting Darrell Wright or some of these guys to step up. They were awful. So Richardson's going to be locked on Booker, and that at the price Booker is a concern for me. The guy that I like best on this side of the ball at center is DeAndre Ayton. Not an answer for Dallas. Dallas gets beat in the paint a lot. No rim protection of much. If you want to consider Kleba or Powell and those guys, they're not the shot blockers that Porzingis is. So I think Ayton's going to hurt the Mavs. I think that's the correlation. If I can find a way to fit it, I'd love to go into that last game with a Luka-Ayton combination.
Yeah, well, that would be fun. I don't think I'll get to that. I think I'd rather pay up a little bit more at center, go to Drummond or Vucevic from Ayton, and with Luka, $10K on DraftKings is a nice price for him. I could play that, but he won't be my first lineup. But I do prefer him on DraftKings there. All right, Coach. Well, listen, we got to build our lineup here on FanDuel.
Oh,
so
okay.
Let's go here. Two brains better than one. It's going to be a staple of our show. We're going to go back and forth and build a lineup one guy at a time. Feel free to play this tonight on the main slate.
Yes.
Coach, I'm going to let you start it off here, however you want.
All right. I'm going to take John Collins.
Okay.
7,700 at power forward.
I like it. Yeah, he makes a lot of sense tonight. We think Capella's going to be out. And I'll go to the other side in that game with Zach LaVine, 7,900. I think we lock him in under 8K at the shooting guard position, monster usage. So let's get two guys from that game.
Okay, I got him in there. I think I'm going to go 6,200 point guard, Kobe White, and stack the backcourt there.
Excellent.
I think it's a differentiator, I don't think people are going to have the courage to play two guards from the same backcourt with 13 games.
I like it.
Good.
I like it a lot. I'll stay in that middle tier here. One more stud who I think is underpriced. We talked about it. Brandon Ingram, 7,300 at small forward.
Very nice. All right, let me. That price is so conducive. It's hard to pass him. All right, I don't know if you're going to like this pick, but trust me, at this price, the usage is going to be there. Gordon Hayward, 6,500.
Oh gosh,
I know. Hang in there, man.
Small
it's okay.
Forward.
You can do it.
Small forward.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like it. Yeah,
hang in there, bro. He's gonna eat at 6,500.
All right, we'll see.
Big surprise. Got to have some differentiation. We don't want to be duping everybody with this lineup.
Yeah. Okay.
He's your old Boston guy. Give him some love.
Yeah. I'm tempted to go with Devontae Graham at 5,700, but I don't know if I want to stack Graham with Hayward.
I put my Charlotte blocker in there.
Yeah, you did. Gosh, this is going to get tough for me. I'm going to have to go over to point guard here and see who else I like, where we can try to save a little bit of money.
We're going to run out of money if we don't watch it here.
You know what? I think I'm going to roll the dice here and go with John Wall at only 7,000.
Okay.
And hope that Harden is out. If things change, you can check in with us on Twitter, and we'll make a substitution for this lineup tonight on Twitter.
Okay. Sounds good. That's sensible. So we have 3 spaces left, and 5,800 per spot for this takedown lineup. I guess that eliminates Luka from making the squad at his number.
He's out.
So I'm going to have to go with some type of value play. And I don't know if we can afford him. Man, this is tougher than I thought. I had it in my head initially. What do you think? At this price, it's hard not to play him. I'm going to go super cheap here and try to balance this out for us and go 5,100 Dylan Brooks in a high-tempo game.
Okay.
I know he's not a stud, but, we can't spend $8,000 on every player. So that gives us 6,100 $50 for 2 spots, so we don't have to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Ooh, I can get a nice power forward in here.
Okay.
Let's get Zion in here at 7,700.
That's where that was going to be my next pick too.
See if you can get a value center with 4,600 to go.
4,600.
Oh, I see somebody I like.
Okay, let's see. 4,600 bananas is all we've got for poor old center. DeMarcus Cousins.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that, he's going to shoot the ball and he's going to play. So let's see. So we got John Wall, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Dylan Brooks, Gordon Hayward, Brandon Ingram, John Collins. Who's
Zion.
your powerful? Zion and DeMarcus. Very good. We used everything but $100.
A lot of big names in there.
A lot of big names. And I think that should give some people a shot. And I would say play that in a GPP would be my recommendation. But good stuff, man. I don't know how long we took, but I think we tried to hustle considering we had so many teams. And again, as the year goes on, when we have less teams, we'll go a little more in depth. I love talking about the reasons for building stuff based on the statistics and everything else, but we also don't want to do a 2.5-hour show for you. So
yeah, just over an hour. We'll be much shorter here when we have smaller slates, but 13 games is tough. So hopefully you took a lot out of the game by game breakdown, especially if you're playing a showdown slate on either site. Hopefully this will help you. But again, what we do now for our members is we really gear up here with a cash lineup on FanDuel that you can plug and play, and then the GPP lineup that's a little bit more risky. So we'll give those out to our members. Again, there's 2 ways to sign up. Go through the BetUS.com.pa offer, use the promo code CoachTalk, or if you just want to just focus on DFS, go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, sign up there. We'll send you an email, get you into our Discord. We give out the lineups about 30 minutes before tip-off on every slate. On DraftKings, we give out the coach's clipboard with highlighted core plays and then other pivots that you can use to fill out your lineups. So jump in with us there. We're doing 7-day-a-week podcasts for the NBA, 5 of them here everywhere that podcasts can be found, 2 of them exclusive to members. We give those out in Discord. So that's one of the perks of membership. Yep. And then, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the alert button on YouTube so you can get our NFL podcasts. We've been doing 5 of those per week, covering every slate. So that is going to wrap it up for today. Terrific job, Coach.
Thank you, Andrew.
On behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.